Welcome to another episode of Watch Once Over. My name is Big E, and today we're going to be looking at this Revue Thommen XL Airspeed. Now, this watch is very dear to me. It's a rebuy, and I'll put a link to the first video I done on it a couple years ago when I first started my YouTube channel. It was one of the first watches I had reviewed. A friend of mine wanted the watch. I ended up selling it to him, and so I ended up losing the watch. But as I looked for another Flieger watch, I couldn't find anything that I wanted, so I ended up buying it back. Now, I did some research on the watch, and when I bought it back, it's not the same exact watch. It has a different crystal and it has a different movement. Everything else seems pretty much the same. Now, this watch has a Sellita SW221-1, and the other one had a 2824, I believe it's 2824 ETA movement. But nevertheless, it's a different movement. This one runs just as accurate, and I'll put up a picture of the accuracy measurements. Now, I had this watch only for a couple of days, and it is brand new, and it's just that it was very endeared to me, so I wanted to buy another one. Now, Revue Thommen is a manufacturer of watches, which right now, I don't think they're making any watches. I think they're only making aircraft instruments. But Revue Thommen has been in business since 1953. That's how long they've been in business, and it's a Swiss manufacturer. Now, Gideon Thomas sold the company to Louis Chichop, and he kept the name. And then after that, I think in 1905, the company was registered as what it is now on these watches, Revue Thommen AG. But that ended up going defunct a little while ago, I believe in 2016, and now it's just called Thommen, and all they manufacture are aircraft equipment, and I'll put some of the equipment over here on the left hand side. But Thommen aircraft equipment is still very reminiscent of what this watch looks like, and you can look at the numbers on here and then compare it to the numbers on the current aircraft equipment, and you can see that definitely there's some lineage there. Now, the reason why I rebought this watch is because as I look for watches, Flieger watches, I wanted a Type A, not a Type B. You know, everybody has their different preferences. I like Type A, but the reason why I like this Type A is because it has a pointer date. And a lot of people think that's a GMT hand, but it's not. It's a date wheel, and the numbers 1 through 31 go along the re-halt, and that is the date, and it's an instantaneous date change. Now, the printing on the watch is really nice. Let me zoom in a little bit. The printing on this watch is really nice, and right here at 6 o'clock is Airspeed XL and a set of wings. Then it's extra large automatic. Now, the Revue Thommen logo is 2 R's pushed up against each other to form a T in the middle, and it looks just like a little alien or something, but nonetheless, that's the logo, and it's an okay looking logo. Now, you also have a sign crown, sapphire crystal, anti-reflected crystal. Now, this crystal is a lot different from the original because you don't have the coating on the outside, only on the inside. On the older one, if you watch the older video, it reflects blue a lot, and this one doesn't do that. It has a different coating on there, but it's still sapphire, and on the back it's a mineral crystal. Another difference is that this rotor isn't as heavily engraved. It does have Cote de Genève, and it is really well regulated, but it doesn't have the same rotor engravings on there. It doesn't look as sharp and as crisp as the older Revue Thommen. Now, this watch has 100 meters worth of water resistance. It doesn't have a screw-down crown, but it still maintains 100 meters of water resistance. And the case and the bracelet are stellar on this watch. Now, you have a case that's all vertically brushed. There's vertical brushing on there. Then you have a bezel that has a lip with a smooth bezel, and the bezel on this watch is extremely small. And even though it's a 41 millimeter watch, it has a really big face because you get all dial going across there and very little bezel. It makes it wear like a 43 or a 44. And just to show you that point, I'll put it up next to a 40. I think this is a 43. This Seiko's a 40. Let me zoom out. This Seiko's a 43, I believe. The Sunset. And if you look at the dial area, and not the bezel, the dial area is a lot bigger on the Revue Thommen. Now, I'll put this up against a 50, which is my Marine Master. And you can see that the dial area on the Revue Thommen is a lot bigger than the dial on the Marine Master. And that's because it doesn't really have a bezel. So even though these watches are smaller, a lot of Flieger watches, pay attention to the dial real estate, because that's one of the things that are going to give you your legibility and readability. So having a big dial is a main thing on pilot watches. That's a big deal with pilot watches. Now, getting back to the case, you have vertical brushing, and on the top of the lugs you have really brightly polished top lugs, and you usually see the opposite of that. And on the bracelet you also have side brushing, and then you have a 5-link bracelet with polished, triple polished center links. Right here, right here, and right here is polished. Then you get brushing, but you also get that arrow type middle bracelet links. And this is really, really comfortable. Look at the articulation on that bracelet. And the bracelet pulls straight down. So even if you have a small wrist, this watch being 41, it'll still fit the majority of wrists. Now you have a mill clasp. You have pins, cotter pins. No collars on this one. So all you do is pop it out, change the link, and pop it back in and press it back in, and you're good to go. The clasp is signed with Revue Thommen, and it's just a fold over, no extension. This isn't a diver's watch. And you have a decent SW221 movement behind a mineral glass, and that's really nice. Now this watch does carry lume. You get a lot of lume on the hands. You have a red tipped date hand, and you have a white tipped second hand with no lume, but the hour hands do lume, and all the numbers lume. And let me give you a lume shot. Charge that up with my ultraviolet light. And I'll cut the studio lights. And that's your lume. All the numbers are lumed, Super Luminova. The hands last all night. The numbers last maybe for about an hour or two, but still, you still get really decent loom. I really like it. Now, the printing on here where it says Revue Thommen is really crisp and clean. It's nice and sharp. The numbers are printed on there. The re-halt is really sharp. And the printing on that dial is really nice. Now, one thing about this watch, which is cooler to me than the date window, you have really good symmetry with the pointer date. And the pointer date comes in handy if you wear glasses and it's hard to see. You can kind of gauge and judge what day it is. But what's cool about this pointer date is you have this flat dial. It's a flat dial on there. It's really nice. And those hands, that pointer date, if it's not overlapping a number, like on the 22nd, you can't even see the hand, because it's just, they just got the hands and the dial perfectly matched. They did a really good job with these sword style hands and that pointer date by making it so black it just disappears. You see that? When you're moving it around, you can't even see the pointer date hand. It's just black. They did a really good job with the hands on this watch. Really good job. So the knurling on the crown is really nice. The watch has an instantaneous date change, and I know I put it up earlier, but I'll put it up again. The specs of how it's running. It's running really good, and I've never had a Revue Thommen. My other one ran just as good too, the Stellar. I don't know if they regulate these or not, but it's regulated at least in 3 positions from the factory. That's what they do on these e-Bosch type movements. They regulate them before they case them up, and then the manufacturers can regulate them again if they wish. I don't know if Revue Thommen does that or not, but it's a good company, got a lot of history. If you want a really nice Flieger watch that's different, try this out. It's a Revue Thommen, and it's back in the collection, and this time it's back to stay. It's like that old high school girlfriend that you had, and you see her again and she's still just as beautiful, and she ends up being single and you're single, and you end up going back together, and it's just like a perfect marriage. So that's the once over of the Airspeed XL. Tell me what you guys think. It's beautiful. My name is Biggie, and I'll talk to you guys later.